is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network. Today, we're going to dive a little deeper into something that is troubling just on the face of it, but it's troubling for a number of reasons. The Associated Press talked about it in the newscast that you just heard. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about the mass shooting in Buffalo. But before I get to that, I want to point out that NPR, National Public Radio, did a survey, and they pointed out in this survey, and I just kind of want this to serve as context for this must be insane. It's 19 weeks into the year, and America has already seen 198 mass shootings. I just kind of want you to sit and marinate on that for a few minutes. 19 weeks into the year. We're in May now, the middle of May, and America has already seen nearly 200 mass shootings this year alone. Now, we're going to take a moment to examine the Brooklyn shooting that happened 2 days ago, and then I have some questions for us here in the Isles of June here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. One of the things that Erin Green mentioned just before she got off the air kind of resonates with some of the questions that I want to ask. So. Let's get into it. Of course, we always welcome your text messages. You can text us at 422-4796. That's 422-4796. And once we've had a chat, you're welcome to call, and I would love to get your thoughts. The numbers are 323-6232. 325-4316 and 325-4259. And I would just like to, messages to, okay, so getting into it, diving in to what happened. An 18-year-old gunman by the name of, well, let's call him a suspected gunman until he's been charged, by the name of, or convicted, Peyton Gendron, carried out a racist attack in a supermarket in Buffalo, New York on Saturday. 10 people were killed, 3 people were injured. Nearly all of the victims were Black. The suspect live streamed the mass shooting. And here's what else is known. The shooter faces life in prison to begin with. He's been charged with first-degree murder. If convicted, he'd face a maximum sentence of life without parole. Officials have said that they're investigating the mass shooting as a racially motivated hate crime and are also considering a terrorism charge. Separately, the FBI is investigating the shooting as both a hate crime and a racially motivated violent extremism. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said that the evidence that's been uncovered so far makes no mistake. This is a direct quote from the police commissioner, this is an absolute racist hate crime that will be prosecuted as a hate crime. This is someone who has hate in their heart, soul, and mind. 11 of the 13 victims of this shooting are Black. Two were white. 4 of the victims were store employees. Those who died, and I'm going to do this because I think it's important. These are the 10 people who died in this shooting. 55-year-old Aaron Salter, a former police lieutenant who worked as a security guard at the store. He was shot and killed after confronting the shooter at the front entrance. Ruth Whitfield, 86, was a beloved wife, mother, and grandmother. Pearlie Young, 77, ran a weekly food pantry and was shopping for groceries when she was killed. Catherine Cat Massey, 72, was a writer who wrote about gun violence in her community and was part of a community group that helped local residents. Hayward Patterson was 67, and he was known to drive residents to get their groceries and volunteered at his church in his free time. Celestine Cheney was at the grocery store to get shrimp and strawberry shortcake. She was a grandmother and she was 65. 32-year-old Roberta Drury was at the supermarket to get food for dinner. She often shopped for her brother and his family who lived near the Tops grocery where the shooting took place. And her brother is recovering from leukemia. Margus D. Morrison was 52. He was the father of 3 children. Andre McNeil was 53. And Geraldine Talley was 62. May God rest their souls. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says that $2.8 million in federal and state funding will go toward helping the victims' families cover funeral and burial expenses of up to $6,000, as well as medical expenses and counseling. Now, we're not going to get sidetracked talking about the paltry, piddling, teensy bit of money that is for somebody's life. But there's a message there somewhere, but we ain't going through that right now. So before we open the phones and talk about this, I want to share with you how the police say the attack unfolded. And then I want to talk about why this attack happened. The police say that Peyton Gendron, who is the alleged gunman, drove more than 200 miles from his small hometown of Conklin, New York, and arrived in East Buffalo the day before the attack to conduct reconnaissance on the grocery store. The shooting at Tops Friendly Markets began at 2:30 p.m. in a parking lot outside the store, located in a predominantly Black neighborhood about 3 miles from downtown Brooklyn. The gunman stepped out of his car wearing tactical gear and opened fire with an assault rifle, shooting 4 people. 3 of those people died. After he worked his way into the store, security guard Aaron Salter attempted to stop the shooter by firing his gun, but the gunman's body armor shielded him from the bullet. He then shot and killed Salter. The suspect was eventually confronted by police at the front of the store. He briefly pointed the rifle at his neck before police persuaded him to drop his guns and surrender. The gunman live streamed the attack through the platform Twitch. The stream was shut down less than 2 minutes after the violence began. This man who did this shooting had threatened his high school last year. And he allegedly published a 180-page document to the anonymous message board 4chan before carrying out the attack. The pages repeat a series of white supremacist ideologies, including a racist conspiracy known as, quote, the Great Replacement, unquote, in an attempt to justify his plan to target and murder Black Americans. The screed's author, who has the same name as the suspected shooter, Peyton S. Gendron, says that extreme boredom during the pandemic led to his radicalization. The gunman who carried out the massacre of 51 people at 2 New Zealand mosques in 2019 promoted this same racist theory of the Great Replacement. So what happened? This dude threatened a shooting at his high school last year. He was subsequently sent to a hospital for a mental health evaluation. That evaluation lasted a day and a half. Somehow, he was released and allowed to continue living in society. And this is the result. So the investigation has really revealed some disturbing things. They say that he may have been motivated by a growing fixation of right-wingers, quote unquote, on environmental degradation and the impact of overpopulation. Authorities believe, and this is, we're talking about why it happened now. Authorities believe the killer chose the supermarket due to the surrounding area's sizable Black community. That 180-page manifesto references his desire to kill as many Blacks as possible. And once again, stated his belief in the Great Replacement theory. And that theory holds that white people are at risk of losing their status and traditional culture because of immigrants. So this dude, monster, demon, devil, whatever you want to call him, he calls himself an eco-fascist. And he blames migration for harm to the environment in the document posted online. And yes, there's a reason I'm emphasizing that. I hope you listen. He calls himself an eco-fascist, and he blames migration for harm to the environment in this 180-page screed. It states, and I'm quoting here, "For too long, we have allowed the left to co-opt the environmentalist movement to serve their own needs. The left has controlled all discussion regarding environmental preservation, whilst simultaneously presiding over the continued destruction of the natural environment itself through mass migration and uncontrolled urbanization, while offering no true solution to either issue." Unquote. This invocation of eco-fascism, or sometimes it's called green racism, once again, it echoes the white nationalists who killed 51 people in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2019. Of course, studies have shown repeatedly that migration itself does not cause an increase in carbon emissions or any other pollution. In fact, the studies done in America show that American-born people are far larger consumers of resources than new immigrants, and that voracious consumption, rather than population per se, is the primary driver of the climate and ecological crises that currently grip the world. But of course, that makes too much sense. It's much easier to blame the migrants. Anyway, we'll get to that once we open the phone lines and once we start taking text messages. Once again, you can text us at 422-4796, and you can call us at 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. This latest shooting shows a dangerously warped vision of environmentalism. And it's now becoming increasingly common as an animating force for right-wing extremists. An expert in environment and migration at Hampshire College, named Betsy Hartman, was quoted as saying, "It's extremely frightening. Eco-fascism has always been a part of white supremacy, even going back to Hitler. But it would seem in white supremacist circles, it's becoming a more accepted part of the ideology. It's not an outlier anymore." Hartman said the rise of Donald Trump and the Republicans' embrace of anti-immigrant rhetoric is fueling the spread of so-called eco-fascism, as well as growing alarm, particularly among younger people, over the climate emergency. For young people, the more apocalyptic images of climate change can fit into the white supremacist view of apocalypse 2. That's what Hartman had to say on it. So we're looking at a situation in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, where a young man claims to have been radicalized over the course of the pandemic due to extreme boredom. And his radicalization took the form of eco-fascism, or quote unquote green racism, and led him to commit an unspeakable, heinous, horrible, despicable, evil crime. He killed 10 people and injured 3 others, specifically targeting Black people, because according to his warped and twisted ideology, too many Black people are causing white people to lose out on their culture and their environment. Never heard any crap like that in my life, but that's what he believed. That's what caused him to pull the trigger. We in the Bahamas we're very close to America. Often you find Bahamians following American ideology almost to the letter, without even bothering to translate it into our culture. In fact, there are Bahamians, I remember in 2016, there were bumper stickers that had been printed up in their thousands, and they were evident all over the roads with Bahama for Obama, as though we could vote for then presidential candidate Barack Obama. There are, disturbingly to my view, any number of Bahamians who believe, for instance, that Donald Trump was a good president and is a good leader. And they are, by they I'm talking about these Bahamians now, are willing to live out their inner lives and let those things that are inside them come out and play with the rest of us, because they've been given permission by some of the great lights of modern life. Let's put it like that. And so what you have is a situation where, in my view, you have a country like the Bahamas that is not only close to America geographically, but philosophically as well. We often find that American philosophies are reflected in Bahamian philosophy and Bahamian community and society. So there is an analog for eco-fascism in the Bahamas. We would not call it green racism, because of course we don't think of ourselves as racist in this country, even though I would argue that there are a few more racist countries than the Bahamas. Our racism isn't necessarily reserved for color. Our racism is reserved for ethnicity. Okay. All right. This texter is very interesting. This texter says, hello, attention, I hope you know what you're doing. We had how many mass shootings in the Bahamas? Mister, please don't give our boys no ideas. This texter, this is an interesting one too. This texter says, good day, Guardian Radio. How is it that seemingly over in Europe and Switzerland and or Sweden, they appear to have a higher rate of ownership than US citizens, but you don't see Switzerland or Sweden citizens going around doing any bunch of mass shootings? And this texter says, well, this texter says this is about evil and racism is a manifestation. An established community was the target. Yes, texter, exactly. Mr. Producer, I hear you clearly. We got to take a short break, folks. And when we come back, we will switch the focus of the discussion to what this has to do with us here in the Bahamas. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts on that when we come back here on Guardian Radio A.M.
The most important thing in life is family. And whenever you need reliable advice, you look to the people you know you can trust. At J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers, we earn our clients' trust every day. Whether it's home, motor, travel, or commercial insurance, we've got you covered. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com.
JS Johnson Insurance. Peace of mind.
Play this record as frequently as possible.
Friday, May 20th, it's time to feel good.
It's Star 106 and Four Walls. Feel Good Friday. Classic.
The Star 106 Anniversary Edition.
Happening at the Four Walls Squash and Social Club Village Road.
It's the after work.
I got soul. Early vibes.
Vintage.
Block party.
Exclusively for the grown and sexy.
With the best in throwback classics.
Happening at the new outdoor terrace bar at Four Walls.
Limited tickets on sale now at the Nassau Guardian and Four Walls for $20 in advance.
Come out early to enjoy the open room bar from 5 to 6 p.m.
This is a strictly cashless party.
So bring your old school dancing moves with your new school payment options.
Feel Good Fridays. Friday, May 20th.
Wait, you know what going down tomorrow?
Nobody, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Wait, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody. I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Wait, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, how many boys coming for me next?
All right, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how did I avoid?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info, and when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the call go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and you can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Guardian Radio A.M. This is Quincy Parker. It's my delight to be with you this morning. It's wonderful Tuesday. This texter says, hey, Quincy, there are a lot of prominent people in this country who always say the Bahamas is underpopulated. Do you consider that the great replacement theory? No. No, I don't. And this is a very interesting text. I will read it. And Dwight, this one is for you. It says, please, please, please leave America racism to Americans to fix. We have bigger fish to fry, like 11 and 13-year-olds being sexually exploited by grown he-horses. You are cogent, but not relevant. Fix it, because you only have an hour. Don't bore us. Well, thank you very much for your criticism, texter. I appreciate you. And I agree with you that we certainly have fish to fry here in this country. And I've spoken on a number of occasions. We've talked about sexual predators and incest in the country. But I think that, and thank you for your comment about being cogent. I appreciate that. But here's why I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant because one of the things that I was doing before the break was I wanted to set up a paradigm that shows the fact that we often mirror in this country what happens in bigger countries around the world, particularly in America. And while we have not had quote unquote mass shootings at places like schools and food stores and those sorts of things, the motivation for the mass shooting is what I am particularly concerned about. Ecofascism and green racism are fancy names for anti-immigrant sentiment, for saying that those people are the people who are causing the problems, for saying that they, the ones who come from the outside, are the ones who are creating all the challenges. I don't know how many Bahamians have said to me that that all the criminals in the country are Haitian or Jamaican. Or I don't know how many Bahamians have said to me that they believe that the people who are committing assaults and violence in the country are doing so because they have heritage that is not Bahamian, whether that's Haitian, Jamaican, or whatever else. It's always fascinating to me to have that conversation about race and why it is that we as Bahamians choose to demonize the Black people who surround us in the Caribbean. We may not necessarily be in the West Indies or the Caribbean because we're in the Atlantic, quote unquote, which is nonsense. But I mean, it's just another way that we try to set ourselves apart from the people that we don't want to be a part of because we want to be tucked up under the US. But the fact is, those cultures are much more like our culture than anything that you would see in the United States. And I mentioned this horrible event in the United States, and I talked about it, and I talked about why it happened and how it happened, because I wanted to point out and to underline the fact that this young man the young man who did this crime, came to believe that he was being personally disadvantaged by immigrants who were taking from him his culture and his rights. That's what he believed. And he believed it so strongly that he got in a car and drove miles upon miles upon miles to target a Black community so he could shoot them and kill Black people to strike a blow in the name of eco-fascism. How much do we as a community need to see to understand that we need to change our rhetoric? We need to change the way we see and speak about the people who are in our country. What examples need to be set before us of the way people are radicalized and the results of that radicalization before we will have, let's call it a come to Jesus moment. Before we'll see that if you call a group of people your enemy and you say it loud enough and long enough and with enough passion and enough vitriol, it stops mattering whether it's true. It only matters that that's what your children believe. And I point this out because, and I want to make sure that I get the distance perfectly clear, because I don't want to lie. Right. So the dude, keep in mind now, he believes as an eco-fascist that his livelihood, his culture, his place in the world is under threat by these Black people. And in order to prosecute that belief, he had to drive more than 200 miles from his small hometown in order to get to Buffalo, to get to the place where he could talk to, or he could exercise what he felt was his duty to kill these people. Caller, thank you for joining us on Guardian Radio AM. The floor is yours.
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, you know, that situation, the situation in the United States about that replacement thing, that's race. You know, that's not they don't have a problem with the Europeans. You see, they have a problem with people of different race. You know, and you know, like the Jews, they feel the Jews are of different race. They have a problem with the Jews. You see, but the other Europeans, no problem. But that's, you know, there's no relation here in the Bahamas. You see, for one, Bahamian people are not violent when it pertains to immigrants. You know, we practice violence among against ourselves. You know, against at least the guys in the street. It's strictly about territory, drug territory or crime territory. That's it. You see, and what I see is that, you know, us in the Bahamas, We worrying about being replaced. We not owning our markets. You know, that's the immigrants, the multinational corporations, the foreign investors. We have a problem with all of it. You know, and you know, and not all of us. You know, only the poor among us who are affected most, who are affected by it. See, the poor don't hire the Asians or the immigrants. You know, we don't hire them. It's the people who benefit most from the same people that benefit from hiring the immigrants, the ones that benefit from the foreign investors. Because why? They make up exorbitant salaries and they don't pay taxes on it. They don't pay fair taxes. In fact, they don't pay the real property tax. The one progressive tax was put in place for them. They don't pay it.
Caller, you're not far wrong. I appreciate you. The point that I'm making is not that Bahamians are violent. The point that I'm making is that we have a stream of conversation in our national discussion that I think risks radicalizing our young people. And while we may not be violent now, that is not set in stone. This next caller, thank you for calling. You're also live on Guardian Radio A.M. Caller, hello. All right, Kermit, we'll ask them to call back. In the meantime, I'm joined by the inimitable C.A. Nuri. Brother Nuri, thank you for giving us a moment of your time. I want to ask you a question, C.A. I have suggested that looking at this mass shooting in Brooklyn on Saturday, that there is a lesson there that we in the Bahamas need to learn about the radicalization of our young people. Do you think that Bahamian young people are at the risk of becoming radicalized in that sense?
And I appreciate the invite, and good morning to everyone out there. And the concern is real, and the concern is sincere. There should be a concern of Bahamian youth being radicalized. And we see that mostly because we have an issue with gang violence in the Bahamas at this present time, where there are a number of Bahamian youth who feel disenfranchised and are voicing their concerns and are angry and showing this anger in a violent form. So when you see there's a political group who are using the most vulnerable against us, and say, see, the government is siding them over us. And we demand to be recognized even more. And that if the government is not doing their job, we will force the government through any means necessary to follow through and make sure that we are shown to be more Bahamian than others. And there is a concern, especially when you see that their numbers are growing. I table the point of what is happening now in the well fields and the narrative being spoken there. I table the point where you hear the commentary that the NGOs are helping certain group of people and that they despise and don't like the Bahamians and that they should go. You've seen the narrative again that the foreign investor is a devil and that they don't care about Bahamians and they come with their own agenda. And these narratives are becoming loud. They're coming loud, and persons are here and abroad are becoming concerned. And they should be concerned because the narrative is actually one that incites pain, it incites violence, and it's not something that is typical of the Bahamas. It's not part of our culture. So yes, I conclude that there is a fear and there should be a concern.
Do you think that we are, see, this is my issue, right? When we talk about stuff like this, we talk about the kind of thing that Bahamians do. We talk about, the kind of people that Bahamians are, and what I keep getting back to is I had a conversation one time with Dr. Nicolette Bethel about culture, and one of the things that Dr. Bethel said to me that I thought was quite profound and also quite self-evident is that culture is not static, right? That culture evolves, that culture grows. And I often wonder if our reliance on what used to be Bahamian culture to see us through what threats to that culture are in the future may be misplaced, because our culture has evolved over the last 30, 40 years. And it isn't the same as it used to be. And so I wonder about that. Mr. Neary, before I come back to you, I want to read these text messages. This one says, why the mainstream media like CNN and MSNBC so selective on mass shooting in America? I didn't hear you talk about the subway shooter in New York a few weeks ago. He spewed racist comments on his YouTube page, but I guess he didn't fit the narrative. Of course he fits the narrative. You're making my point, Texter. Thank you. There is a difference between radicalization and awareness. It's an interesting point. It says, if there are facts to prove, then I think that is awareness as opposed to radicalization, a cry by citizens to have issues that are long outstanding dealt with. Okay, so CA, do you think that, so I'm trying to be gentle and fair and objective with these questions. The texter makes a point about the difference between radicalization and awareness. Where do you think we are on that spectrum at this moment in Bahamian development?
Culturally, we are peaceful people. I don't have no immediate of any type of violence or any type of dogma overcoming us and saying that we become a violent type of people or targeting a particular type of group, because we are most accommodating, and it's been proven historically. We have tolerated and welcomed immigrants in our country for decades, if not centuries, right? So I don't have no immediate fear of Bahamians becoming radicalized in any particular way. Nonetheless, I know that there is a group of Bahamians who are frustrated. They are frustrated in regards to our government, and they are propelling a narrative of non-tolerance, a narrative of do or die and forcing and dictating to our government. And that is what I am concerned about. And that must be arrested and arrested immediately. When you see in this foreign culture coming into and being propelled by Bahamians per se, coming into our culture. And I think that Bahamians are not identified because it's dressed in this term of being nationalist and nationalism, but it's actually anti-Bahamian. And that's what I have a concern with.
All right, let's go to the phones again. Caller, thank you for calling. You're live on Guardian Radio AM.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Neary. Listen, I heard you spoke about the shooting in New York, but I didn't hear you mention the fact that, or I don't know if you know where the young man aimed a gun at the white gentleman in the store who was on the floor, and he apologized for aiming the gun at him, and then went on to continue to shoot black people. So that like you say, that was racist and intentional. Because I figure if you're just shooting, you wildly shooting and not paying attention, but he was closely paying attention to those who he shot.
Yes, yes, he was.
But like Mr. Neary is saying about Bahamians, coming to that level. I don't see Bahamians getting there, but we are frustrated because even for me, I feel like the government is really, 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 really lax when it comes to immigrants doing what they want, living where they want. They're having their food stalls here, there, and everywhere. And a Bahamian pop up a stall, and man, listen, you get police after police chasing you to the point where you got no place left to go. But those illegal immigrants, they can't be with permits or license of any sort because they're not legal.
I hear you, caller. Thank you very much. And
see, the caller Quincy echoes a real concern about Bahamians, and this angst I don't believe the government has addressed, and I believe that this may morph into something greater, where there is a movement, and that movement itself may act out where it might become physical or they say violent, and I think that needs to be immediately addressed, where Bahamians feel as if they're getting a fair shot within their country.
Caller, I'm sorry, I believe there's another call on the line. You're live on Guardian Radio A.M.
Quincy, good morning. Good morning, CA. Listen, just wanted to say something to the previous caller. I think she was very much on point. CA, you are very much on point as well. Bahamians typically are peace-loving people. In fact, the records do show for quite some time we are welcoming people. We do welcome different diasporas into our midst, and the peace and harmony between us and them have always been consistent, where we are recognized as peaceful people. The disparity here, brother, is this. The Bahamian, the organic Bahamian, and persons hate to hear when raw-born, what we call raw-born Bahamians, refer to ourselves as indigenous or organic. But in case in point here, organic Bahamians do feel the push as if we are not regarded in our own country. We are regarded. The perception out here is that we are regarded as even fifth-rated citizens in our own country, and it's incumbent upon the government, the 38 or 39 representatives in the parliament, to actually represent the organic or raw-born Bahamians in a manner that we desire to be recognized. We have seen that many persons came into this country and prospered. We've seen the illegal migrants come into this country and prospered. We've seen that many laws have been broken by these people, and there seems to be no penalty. However, when the raw-born Bahamian does the exact same thing that these persons have been doing, then we are either charged, arrested, put before the courts, and so on and so forth. So in other words, in closing, it's a double standard that's killing our country and our people, and it must be corrected. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you very much, Jeff. CA, this is clearly something that we'll have to continue talking about. Thank you for your time, my brother. I appreciate it. Folks, that's going to do it for us here on A.M. The news is up next, and following the news, it's The Revolution with Juan McCartney. God bless. Take care.